post the invitation. I had an echo to kill. Thank you.
Okay, you got it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I muted you.
Yeah,
too,
that was me. That was me. I'm just trying to be in there so that I can say something like, "Yeah, that was me. That was me."
It's Monday and a Tuesday.
It's a Monday. Is this Monday or Tuesday? This is Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Hello, this is one of our ad hoc floaty throughout the week, midweek call-in shows that we like to float all around depending on when the panelists are available. So it's not even about you audience. No, it is obviously about you too. So let's see, post. So it's not even about you audience. No, it is obviously. I think I figured something out. I'm trying to say post. It's sitting in or on the wrong window and turning on the sound. Stop that. All right. So, and now pin that comment. That's why I'm even over there. Pin the message. Yeah. Now it's pinned.
Yeah, we have
the chat.
It's the ghost in the machine today.
It is. I'm just going to be tech challenged. Hopefully, I'm done with tech challenges for the rest of the day. We're looking for callers. Call in about street epistemology and any claim you like. Really, we are happy to talk about all sorts of sense and nonsense and everything in between, and examine it using street epistemology. Or you can ask us to make a claim and talk about such things, and we can epistemologize each other, digging for the reasons behind the claim, the kind of reasons that would convince us, how we would come to believe, and how we would come to change our mind about any particular topic, without really pushing back on the topic itself. It's not about determining the truth of which one of us is right. Just how do we think about it? Anyway, I am. Are there any announcements? Do we have anything going on that?
The practice hosts are looking for some new hosts. If you're a regular there for about 6 months, have been practicing SE for at least that long, we'd like to ask you to pitch in. Hey, Fanny, good to see you. We ask that you have at least an intermediate level understanding of SE. We will provide training, and what you contribute is on your schedule at your convenience. We have 2 practice sessions each week. Since I'm Eastern Daylight Time still, it's 2 p.m. my time on Saturday and 8 p.m., which is Sunday morning in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And we ask that you ping anyone or SE practice event host on the SE Discord server if you're interested, or catch one of us in one of the practice events.
Okay.
That's me, Sushi, Dali, who else? Angela, Luke.
So the subject isn't chosen yet. Whoever calls in may pick the subject. We do have a few things in our back pocket that we'll talk about between callers, and suggest the subject. We will follow the lead of the chat, as well as call in. That's what this is about. This is about interacting with the audience. That's the whole point of this thing. So cool. Rosemary, you showed me this John Oliver thing. I'm not going to play it. Copyright reasons. I don't want to get on HBO's watch list or something. This was about antiquities. Does this develop a claim that we could talk about in SE?
I think we can develop a claim for this. All right. Let me know if you need to type it up or if we.
Typing. I have a window open. Tell me what you think the claim is.
I think the claim is. See, how do we put it? How we have treated antiquities in history from other cultures and locations has harmed our ability to do science in the present. So if you need me to shorten it up, let me know, but I think
how we have treated antiquities in other nations has harmed our ability to do science in the present. Is that about right?
that's about right. It can be also within our nation, but I think that captures it pretty well. So
yeah. I could see a definition of nation that says like America has treated indigenous people, and there is
and they are nations.
Nation, that nation thing.
Yeah, they are nations within a nation.
Yeah, a nation within a nation. Yeah. Okay. So antiquities. And
yes.
Gigi, do you want this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do it? Should we tag team?
You can do this one and put me backstage.
Okay. How we have treated antiquities in other nations. So the first thing, nations, sounds to me like we would consider indigenous people and the U.S. government to be in separate nations.
Yeah, we could, for our purposes, especially since we do actually, they are technically other nations within our nation. So that is legally correct.
From a legal perspective, that makes sense. Okay, so that's a nation is just basically like any group of people that coheres together for whatever reason.
Coheres together, has its own political existence.
Cool.
However you define it, but yeah.
Yep. How we have treated into we. Who's the we? Paleface.
The we here would be. It's kind of broad, so I would say it's a combination of the colonial plundering of other nations and how we handle as archaeologists in the present. We have improved, but it has not always been respectful of the past.
So we, the group of people that do colonial plundering.
Yeah, people who've, so like there's colonial plundering and then there's archaeology, and sometimes they're not all that, like there's an overlap. I would say early on.
Overlap?
Yeah, I would say early. Yeah, like Lord Elgin, he would have been sort of trying to do archaeology, but really plundering things like, like a lot of early archaeology was a form of plundering too. Like it was interest in antiquities, but they weren't necessarily when they were taking stuff from, say, Egypt, they're not necessarily doing it with permission, because nobody thought, hey, it matters to ask permission of the local people. Can we take your objects and take them to our country and just never give them back? Things like that. Or like, now we have a thing where you can't take it out of another country without special permission, and there maybe it's on a loan, but there's a lot more laws around it now than there once was.
Things that are acquired in the present go through something like proper channels and allowing the origin of nation to have control in the long run, something like that. All right.
That's what's supposed to happen, but
Is that mostly the case? Do you know? Does that cover 90%, 99%, 9%?
I think there's still a lot of shady dealing in the antiquities market for sale. So if you think of Hobby Lobby and all those clay tablets that they had from Iraq, and
Yeah.
they put them in that Bible museum that they brought here, but a lot of it was acquired incorrectly. And then they were like, "Oh, but we saved it from ISIS." It's like, well, that's not an excuse for, just taking it through without going through proper channels. So there are incidents like that in like current.
So it was done under an emergency reason and then made permanent. Was that the point?
No, I think they did it. They did it the wrong way. It just happened to be during the time when ISIS was taking over Iraq.
Oh, okay.
They
So
wasn't.
that
They
wasn't
they
done-
weren't doing. Yeah, they weren't doing it to protect the items. They were bringing it to their museum so they could make money, or however they wanted to put it. But their Museum of the Bible here in the U.S.
Okay. Okay. Harmed our ability to do science in the present. Is this because it contaminates something, or what is the harm? In any given situation, the data might be corrupted. But
Right.
aside from how you might corrupt that one particular, is this just about the science of antiquities, or do you mean science in a more broad sense?
I mean specifically science in the. So, for example, like one way you can see it is like, if you wanted to go into the past, like we would clean things really hard, so now we can't actually test the chemical composition of like food that was left on surfaces. So like that's one way. But the way I was specifically had in mind that was inspired by this was when I was in archaeology. Well, I was an anthropology major, and we did North American archaeology.
Mhm.
One of the things in U.S. law is that if you find a Native American gravesite,
Uh-huh.
you have to notify the existing tribe. Like if there is an existing tribe, like notify them that you found it. A lot of times it ends up with, they want to bury the bones. They don't want you running tests on the bones. So like you can't test for things like how the diet was. So you can test for things like where they live, like the fluorine dating, like so the actual science of learning about the past from the bones. That because of the mistreatment
Mhm.
of Native American antiquities and culture in the past, there are more barriers, so they're less likely to agree to
Mm.
having those types of tests done. So I think that was it. Kennewick Man, I think was one of the famous ones where like there wasn't like the archaeologists were like, no living tribe can lay claim to this body. Like we know he's not related to anybody, but there were living tribe, and like it was a big court case, and that was a big case where it was like they wanted to do more tests on him, and tribes were saying, no, we don't want you to do anything with this body. This body belongs to us because he was found in this location, and that historically is our territory. So that's a really good example of how rapport was damaged by our past history.
Mhm.
And so the one like kind of subclaim I would make is that in some ways we have to give up being able to do science in the present in order hopefully to recreate that rapport.
Mhm. Mhm. So I'm hearing that it's reputational damage because of bad actors, leading to distrust, leading to just making it really difficult to do legitimate things.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a powerful, compelling thing. I haven't actually watched the whole John Oliver video. I'll do that later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he doesn't talk about North American archaeology, but like there's a little bit in there, but like the actual like bones discussion,
Mhm.
that is just something that it reminded me of.
yeah. So what could we do to mitigate? What could we do to mitigate this problem?
Mitigation, that for one thing, like with the Kennewick Man case, where you had that competing interest. So we have a law that's meant to help us have the ability to both do science and respect the wishes of the living people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have like a case like Kennewick Man, I'm really hoping I remember that name right, but we're going to call him Kennewick Man for this. Like that case is like where the competing interests are going to make the claim based on their legal. So like the scientists really wanted to study this man. He was a really interesting body. Like he was much older than anyone thought there were people here in the past. So like that was like a really important body to study for science.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we have those laws to help us mitigate that and strike that balance. But sometimes I think, at least in the short term, it might be better to offer the olive branch from science to Native peoples, and then also talk to them about like what benefit there is from studying the bones for learning about their history. And I think there was an attempt to do that in that particular case. And it's like, hopefully doing that more in the future would allow you to do more studies and accomplish getting more information, especially if we find more even older burial sites, because it, you know, that history of when people first arrived in this hemisphere is still like we keep getting surprised by how old the bodies are that we find.
Yeah, I keep seeing new oldest ones. So the laws, how good are, how if the laws become the status quo, are you satisfied, or would you want to move them one way or the other?
I think that right now we probably have a good set of laws. There might be more cases in the future that would expose, like all laws, you can't think of everything. Sure. There's always going to be a case that doesn't fit. But I think that the principles in our Antiquities Act are pretty well set forth. It's just a matter of balancing all the interest.
Okay. Now you were saying scientists offering an olive branch. I'm wondering what sort of actions could Western science do that would regain the trust of people not in it?
Yeah, I think in this particular case that I'm thinking of, the scientists insisting that it wasn't something that they could lay claim to under our law, that it was outside, like this body wouldn't have been related to any existing tribe. I think not doing that would be a way of extending the olive branch and allow the communities to participate in the discussion of where and when and how you study the body versus simply reburying the body. Like maybe you could rebury the body for a while, but put it into something that's like hermetically sealed so that, I mean, depending, again, you have a lot of competing interests, but it's like one of those things where I really do value the information we can get from science. But I also know that there is a kind of complicated history. And so you want to be able to balance that.
Yeah, definitely complicated stuff. And what appeals to me that would solve it for me is oftentimes not what makes sense for the other culture. So if I'm going to find an agreement or a compromise, I have a lot of research to do to figure out what matters to them, if there can be something that.
Yeah. And you're going to also have different opinions within that community too. But I think generally,
it's always there's this bias pushed around. Yeah.
It's like I have two values in balance here. It's like the value of learning from science and the value of respecting indigenous cultures. And which one weighs more?
Yeah.
And it depends on the situation.
Yeah, making amends to communities that have been harmed, indeed. I'm actually kind of a fan of reparations and that kind of thing. So yeah. My buddy Phil asks, how long ago do cultures get to claim ownership of an individual human remains? Is there any limit?
I don't think there is right now. I don't like, yeah, I don't, there is not a bright line rule in the law from what I understand.
I bet that's where a lot of people are going to get arm wrestling.
Yeah. And it probably depends on which country, but like just in our country, there is not a bright line rule.
Yeah. Indeed. So, what would be the second best reason? Something where our reputation has been lost and we are harmed in our ability to do science, but that didn't come from our treatment of antiquities. Is there another thing that causes the same result that's at play?
So a second thing that would harm our ability.
Yeah, so if we're measuring the harm in our ability to do science based on reputation lost and people not trusting us, if we look at that, are there things other than our treating of antiquities that cause that?
I think treatment of indigenous peoples during the colonial period would be another one. So, yeah.
Okay. So how do we mitigate that?
That's probably even harder to mitigate.
Yeah. I think our current laws mitigate it at least as much as like the current way we deal with antiquities can help mitigate how we dealt with it in the past. So hopefully we have, laws that you got to deal with human rights for everybody.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I'm hoping that works out. I wonder what else.
Well, in the John Oliver spot, he does touch a little bit on North America, and there's a museum a clip of a museum where like Native Americans went in, and they're like all of their like cultural items were just stored away. So I think maybe another way to mitigate would be allow access. Like things are just stored away, like they can't get to them, they can't learn from them themselves. I think that would be another mitigation, perhaps.
Okay. Red in Economics, where it says reparations combined with systematic change. Got to do both. Yeah, indeed. So, what could you learn hypothetically that would make you think that this mattered less than you think now? That think the connection of how we've treated antiquities has not much to do at all with our difficulties these days?
I'm not sure what would. It's a hard one because it's a causal, sort of.
Yeah, we're saying. I'm just saying that the thing you're wrong about is the causality. Not that we have a limitation on our ability to do science in the present that's motivated by reputational loss or lack of trust. I'm taking that as a given.
Yeah, motivation. I don't know if I have an answer for that because it's.
Yeah. Rebuild trust, communication, transparency, following through with promises. Yeah, becoming trustworthy people in the way we deal with all the people everywhere. And then add some number of generations for everybody to come around to that's the way it is now.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know. It would. I think I would have to learn something that happened historically that I haven't considered that it would affect that, but I don't know what that would be.
Okay, so I'm going to try for one. This might be messaging. It might just be offering a steel man. So if I came to learn from someone from another nation who thought they were mistreated, and they identified a delight for what the British Museum has done, because they've provided great storage and it'll last longer than where it is. And they even provide casts that go in the right place and they're marked so there's no lying, but you get to see what the whole thing is. And it's actually that this piece of artwork is better preserved because of the British Museum's involvement. I'm just making this shit up.
Right.
What's the steelman for the British Museum, right?
Yeah.
And that this actually for them made them trust in a way like that nothing else did. And that the only thing holding them away from trusting more was treatment of indigenous people during this time in history, something of that order,
Right.
where they said that other reason, yes, but this one actually I'm the other direction. That's the kind of thing that would move me to thinking differently. Would that kind of thing move you?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for this conversation.
Yeah. I enjoyed it too. I thought it would be a fun one.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one.
Hello, Gina.
Thank you for everybody in the comment section. Good feedback. Okay.
That was an interesting one.
Yay. Thank you for bringing that, Rosemary.
Oh, you're welcome.
Miles is bringing the morning. This is my noisy pretty boy. Anyway, looking for callers. Anybody want to call in? You can also suggest things in the chat. We will follow with that. Any sort of claim that you'd like. We're open to all sorts of nutty things and good things, and strong, powerful things, and we pretty much don't vet. You can come on here, and all you have to do is be polite. Oh, excellent! Thank you. Love to hear from Matthew.
Oh, nice. It'd be good to see you, Matt.
Last Wednesday at UCLA, we had two people that weren't together come and play our Spectrum game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they came and played, and one of them, Natalie, very excited to be on YouTube. She's digging it. She's gotten the bug, and that's very cool. And the other one is shy and doesn't want to be on YouTube.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, and they said that it would be okay for us to use the audio, and just not use camera shots that include them. Okay, and so I ended up spending a whole lot of time with the camera looking here and over here, but never panning through here. So panning around the back and all this stuff. There's like sometimes I really had to keep them out of the shot. I didn't want to use the fuzzies. I just wanted to pan them out. So that one may remain unlisted. We'll find out. I'm going to try to give them the option of saying yay or nay, and we will probably overlay somebody else reading all of their lines. So anonymized, you just can't even stand it.
I support that.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And in that case, it still might be unlisted and something where you just ask me and say, yes, I promise not to pass this on, just send people to you. And that might be okay. How does the call in work? You click the link.
There are links in the chat.
It clicks in, goes in through your browser, and you can join us with voice and video and say hello and stuff. Masks available for people who don't want to be filmed. Just point your camera to the wall. Put a bright light. Make sock puppets.
You can also fuzzy out their faces when you publish.
Oh, yeah. If we're doing post-editing, right here, if you call in, you're live. You're just in as soon as I put you up on screen. Sasha asks, do you think people should be allowed to buy home companion robots in the future that had the ability to take the life of an intruder, for example, given that science was advanced enough? A home robot that would take the life of someone would, I think that would have to be distinct from a booby trap in a very important way. Right now,
booby trap.
yeah, you cannot booby trap. But you might manage to get somebody to make the claim that if someone points a weapon at their target, they'd be allowed. I don't know. That'd be an automatic. I don't know. Could you make that kind of a case that that there are certain lines that once they are observed, you can do something? We kind of have that in terms of self-defense.
Yeah, he added where the robot would respond to the owner of the device voice only.
Oh, okay. So this is a remote gun. If the owner has a trigger, then the owner is the one that sets it off. Just because they have a robotic scope on a sniper still means the person pulling the trigger is making the decision.
Right. And if they're wrong, they may have liability.
Oh yeah. This is cool.
Yeah, you definitely cannot strictly just booby trap a house. So
yeah.
That's a fun case.
Yep.
Okay, Bill was saying, I was thinking more for the live stuff. Like, if you were streaming live, like a show like this, either they can bring their own mask or hat or whatever they wanted to cover up their faces.
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming on this show live, it's up to you what you show on your camera, and obviously don't do anything that violates community guidelines. Obviously, and if you don't want to show your face, just wear a mask. Yeah, sure. Now, as far as we used to do live stuff in the park, but frankly, the cost benefit ratio of doing that compared to the edited is not high enough to make it worth the extra trouble and quality loss going through like cellular data. So we've stopped trying to do live SE in the park. It just doesn't, the payoff is not high enough. That for the interaction with the audience, we'd much rather be completely focused in with you. Like filming in public. Yes. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you doing?
Good. I'm going to be walking around because I'm leaving work and I'm going to go catch my bus. But and I might have some internet issues while I'm on the bus and I transfer to my hotspot on my phone. But how are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, we're
good.
Doing well.
I'm just happy to see you. I it's always fun. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to Dali and Gina and Rosemary.
I think
I don't know.
He's gonna pop in and out, kind of.
If I've ever talked. I think my internet may have cut out for a little bit. Did you hear the last?
Yeah.
I think you said to Rosemary that you don't know that you've ever talked with her directly.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we have either.
Yeah. Mathew is an SE practitioner, does most of his work on the Stereo app, which is an audio interviewing and people talking in a almost like Clubhouse, but instead of people talking over each other, they record a piece of sound and it goes up and then it's played by the people on the stage which allows them to keep the over talking to no trouble. It's kind of a school, and it'd be great, except that it's only on Android. It's a pain in my. I'm not very good about the whole getting on the stereo thing. Because it's like this little cul-de-sac from the tech perspective of like, I'm over there with this headphones doing that with the thing. Anyway.
Is he still frozen? Yeah.
I think
we lost him for a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a loud purring. That was cool.
She's like, I feel the love from the chat. I must purr.
Yep.
Hey there, Travis. Good to see you.
Hey, Travis. Hello.
Hi,
Sorry,
welcome
I'm
back.
on my hotspot now, so
Okay, good.
it's a little bit of a difference. By the way, I'm here in Salt Lake City, so this is the church office building of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in case anyone's interested in that. And then down that way, wow, I can't figure out where the construction is. That's the Salt Lake City Temple. They've been doing construction for a few years on the temple, and so it doesn't look nice. But if you look up Salt Lake City Temple, you can see what it looks like. It's pretty well known throughout the world. It's right near where the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square sings. They formerly called the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They just sing right across the street from the temple. So anyway, right here in the heart of Utah. So
I was last there about 15 years ago. Got to see it.
Nice.
Walk through the whole thing and see the building and be a tourist.
Cool. If you get a chance to come again, like, I don't know, I would say probably like 4 years from now. I don't know exactly when they're going to be done with the construction because they keep delaying how long it's going to take. But they're going to redo all the visitor centers and have updates to all the places that you can visit. So it'll be a cool thing for anybody who happens to find themselves in Salt Lake City. But yeah, well, I don't know. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I'm trying to...
Yes. There's a good bit of background noise, but I'm understanding you over it just fine.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I kind of joined sporadically. I don't necessarily have any claims that I'm dying to make or talk about, but I'm happy to kind of talk about. I mean, I could turn it into a claim. Some of the stuff that I had sent you, Dali.
Yeah. I got to read a really nice post from you this morning and respond to it. That was I enjoyed that.
Thanks. I think if I had to turn that into a claim, the idea was I've been talking a lot to people on a platform called Stereo.
Yes.
And I've talked to, I've tried to do street epistemology when I can, talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, other Latter-day Saints like me, people, pagan man, atheists, like just a wide variety of people. And from some of the conversations that I've had, I realized that on that platform, there are some people who are very adamant about their views in a way that they're not willing to listen or entertain the other side of the conversation. Like, for example, I won't name anybody by name, but a Christian woman that I met admitted to me that she grew up not wanting, like I guess maybe this is part of what she was taught, if I'm reading between the lines correctly, to not talk to atheists because atheists have a hidden agenda that they want to pull you away from your faith. And then I also have talked to a couple of atheists on the platform that have been kind of angry and terse, maybe.
Mhm.
But the vast majority of people that I talk to are really are really kind and respectful and willing to listen to each other, even if they have deeply held beliefs. And so those kind of conversations kind of spurred on this post and these thoughts. And so I created a Facebook post where I was like kind of venting a little bit, but sharing some of my thoughts that if we, and maybe this is my claim, if we let go of our positions, or at least let them loose a little bit, that we're more likely to engage in civil conversations. So yeah, I don't know. That's and maybe there's a better way to word that, but I just think that for the people who are on the extreme ends, I think it's stopping them from even listening to the other side. So
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah. Redneck Economics asks, "What's a claim?" And the simple answer is anything that we can ask you that you can have reasons for about. It's something you think is true or have false or specific. It could be a fact about the world. It could be a preference that you have. It could be a normative claim, like this has moral implications. We should do this. The laws should be bad. People should X, Y. So any of those can be claims that we can examine in street epistemology. Usually we're talking about something small enough I can put it on the bottom line, and then we can pick apart the definitions of all the terms so that we really get it clear. So that's what makes a good claim for SE. That was me just answering the chat. Yeah. So is there? I'm trying to think if I can put one claim, extract one claim from this. If you want to examine that.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts of trying to kind of distill some of my long-winded thoughts there, but feel free. I'm totally
Okay.
open to that. But yeah, I think overall, maybe the idea is that we can get along better if we realize that we may be wrong, or maybe we can get along better if we realize it's not about proving that you're right. I don't know, maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yes.
Being open to changing our minds is a good way of getting along better with others who might not agree with us. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah. And it really has, I feel like, looking at it, actually, the man that I kind of paraphrase in here, that told me that he's another Christian man from the United Kingdom, and I met him on stereo, and he said to me, like he's all for evangelizing his faith, right? He loves talking about how he came to understand who Jesus was and what that meant to him. But he doesn't do it in a way that is rude or condescending or judgmental. He does it in a way where he's just sharing a story, and then he lets other people talk and he listens to them. And I feel like that's kind of the heart of what I was getting at. And what he said to me when I was doing a show with him one time is he said, I don't feel like my job is to prove to anybody that I'm right, because I don't think I can. I have my story and my experience, and it's real to me, but I can't give that to somebody else. And so my job is just to share what I know, and what I believe from my perspective and why I believe it, and then let people come to their own conclusions. And I think that's a good example, you know, of how we should be and how we should approach conversations. And I think that when it's changed the way having these conversations has changed the way I share what I believe with other people, because I think I'm less emphatic about these are the things that I know. Hey Ray. Or these are the things that I can't be like, you're not going to change my mind. And it's more about what can you teach
You're less
me
fixed.
and what can I teach you? Yeah.
You're less fixed and more open.
Sasha says sometimes you have to push or put your foot down when nothing else works. I think Mathew might be saying he does that less now. Yeah, indeed. I have a high respect for anybody who is doing what they think is the right thing. So I really see you doing a lot of doing the right thing, and that kind of thing. So by your lights, you're a hero. By my lights, you're a hero. By your lights? No, what am I saying? No, I really like it when people strongly exhibit their own values.
Yeah, and I do too. Even people, I don't know if I've mentioned this before with any of our previous conversations, but I've had people close to me who have left the church that I'm a part of, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I've had deep, long conversations with them, and I can see from their perspective why they came to that conclusion and why they did what they did. And I have respect for them, and I really do, because I feel like they're standing, not only are they doing what they feel is right, just like you mentioned, Dali, but they're standing up against what a lot of people in their social circles would expect of them to do it.
Yeah.
That takes sacrifice, regardless of whether you're somebody who joins a religion or joins a cause at the expense of maybe social pressures around you, or doing the opposite. I think that takes a lot of courage, and I think that's evidence of somebody really doing what they feel is right. So, yeah.
Once Upon a Time says, what if they have bad values? So I think this is in my response to saying I find people heroic that follow their own values. And I would say it's not the only thing I count. Obviously, what harm they do in the world matters quite a bit.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like that, to me, that comes down to everybody being born with an ability to discern the difference between right and wrong, whether that comes from an evolutionary adaptation that contributes to the survival of the species, or it comes from God, whatever you believe that comes from. I believe that everybody has, and some people may have it more than others, just like some people have, some people are born colorblind, and some people are born with an incredible, like a superpower to be able to discern color. Some people are born tone deaf, and some people are born with perfect pitch. So I think everybody has a different level of ability to, I guess, discern between right and wrong. But I think to one degree or another, all of us have that. And so I think there are values that are common among humanity. And to say that somebody has bad values, they may, is to say that maybe that natural ability is inhibited in them, which I don't think is the case for the majority of people. I think the majority of people have that ability to decide and reason through what's good and bad as well. And so I think for the most part, we have to give people that freedom and autonomy to do that for themselves. And there may be a few rare cases where it's appropriate to step in and intervene, because somebody might be a psychopath and they might be a serial killer, right? But I think that's not the majority of humans. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I keep remembering 1% and 4% tied to those designations. So it seems to be a persistent minority. Must be some value in keeping it around, or they'd all been bred out, I guess. Oh yeah. Sorry, I got distracted there. Do you have any questions? Hope. Rosemary?
I do not have questions, but no, it's interesting to kind of.
I don't have any questions. No, I have none. I just want to make sure I'm following this. You were talking about like how talking to other people in this way has made you less fixed in your own views.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I've been on both sides of the fence where I've had street epistemology done on me, like from Dali.
With your claim, with you.
Others. Yeah, and one of my deeply held claims about my church and about how I feel about God and the Book of Mormon as one example. And I've also practiced street epistemology on others who have other claims. And I think now looking back on being on both sides of the fence, I think actually practicing street epistemology with other people has probably actually opened me more up, I guess. There are other ways I could put that, but I've become even more open-minded by practicing it with other people, by being the street epistemology practitioner, rather than just having it done on me. Which I don't know if that's insightful at all, but I think that's how I would.
So the benefit to you has come from actually practicing it.
Yeah, I think I've had benefits from both, for sure. Both have been beneficial to me. But I think when you do it yourself, I think it just takes you to a higher level, I guess.
I could see that, yeah. That's an interesting take on the benefits to the street epistemologist.
Your sound is out.
Your sound is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we can hear us either.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, and now you probably can't hear me very well.
I wasn't able to hear you. Now
we hear you now.
Now we hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Well, if it keeps breaking up like this, then feel free to. Well, my computer might kick me off if I keep breaking up, but feel free to.
It happens if it happens. That's fine.
Add somebody else up here. Hopefully, it works okay.
So Sasha asks, is it fair to, this is a compound question, but maybe it's all one. Is it fair to ask religious people why they pray to God when things don't go right because God has a plan and predetermined everything? What might they say? I think that might be a complex question, but feel free to address it however you like.
He's freezing up, so hopefully.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. When God, okay, it's fair to ask why they pray to God when things don't go right, because God has his plan and so it seems like, why do they pray to God when things don't go right? And then there's a separate one, is God has a plan and predetermined everything. Seems like those are two separate questions to me, and hard to say the one because the other. But I'm getting stuck on it. And I think Matthew's getting stuck on the internet.
Yeah, I think we're definitely losing.
Yep. Matthew has left the bandwidth. Okay.
Is it fair to ask? Is it fair to ask religious people why they pray to God when things don't go right? Because God has his plan and predetermined everything.
I think you want to start by saying, do you believe that God has his plan and predetermined everything? And then if they say yes, ask. Is it fair to ask for this?
If God knew it from the very beginning and the plan can't be changed and it's all deterministic, why are you bothering to pray and ask for intercessory change when whether you ask or not doesn't have anything to do with it? And some would say, yes, but God knew I would ask. So the asking is part of the causal chain. So if I fail to ask, I don't do everything that's in God's plan, and it doesn't come out quite as good if I fail to ask, because all I'm doing is being obedient. I don't know why I've got my Christian hat on going, what would I say?
Yeah, I mean, we might put it on my Catholic hat would be like, well, we still have free will, so
yeah. If we have free will, does that mean that everything that we do makes God's perfect plan less perfect?
Right. Or is it more perfect that we can screw it up? Yeah.
More like a river that falls down a slightly ill-defined set of boundaries to the thing. And it's all going to get there, but only in cloudy probability waves. That's possible too. Yeah, it was good to see you, Matthew.
Yes.
Not while riding.
Thanks for calling while you could.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. Call in. It's fine. Rosemary is showing a New York Times article.
Yeah, you can, if you want to post it in the chat. That's about Kennewick Man. If we wanted to.
Sure, I'll post that. Let's see if I can. There it goes. I can copy that. Book about Kennewick.
If anyone's curious about the history there.
Very good. Very good. Quality question says, most Christians I met would say God works in mysterious ways and just pray for understanding of the ways. Yeah, mysterious ways. That's an important thing to recognize. And as a Christian, I would say, it's the ontology we have. It's not a choice. It's just that God is mysterious in some ways. God's ways are beyond ours, and that's not about a decision. It just is the thing that it is. So accept it. Don't argue that you wouldn't like it. That's just wishful thinking. Anyway, yeah. I do believe in God, and you do it well. You make your tribe look good. Keep representing good that thing, because you might be right. Anyway, yes, if you believe a thing strongly, I suggest that it is almost imperative for you to say so. I speak to anybody and everybody in that regard. TV Seeker, in their humble opinion, the more we hear and actually listen to, the more we research sources, the more we listen and research, hopefully a pleasant conversation can be had. Conversations equal a better world. Yeah, listening to people, hearing them out, that's a good thing. being able to do that is hard for some folks. Hopefully we can figure out a way around that. Social anxiety or not. Anyway, that's just my own thing.
You're not alone.
Yeah. Sometimes social anxiety just goes ping and my brain locks up and I'm like, I don't want to think about that anymore.
Yeah, that's me.
Sorry, I lost my
Every
mind.
time.
Help me find it.
I'm gonna freeze and choke right now. I cannot talk.
Yeah, that happens. You know, that's happened often enough to me that if I have loved ones around me, I'm not even afraid of it. It's like, oh, okay, this could happen. Anyway,
It's happened to me once or twice in SE practice sessions.
Reed has proven to be one of those loved ones. I trust Reed like I trust family to get me out of tough situations. So I don't know. I seem to do okay in public. Public speaking doesn't seem to bother me all that much, but I will not do it alone. No, go out alone in the world. No.
The problem I'm having right now is I'm not sure how many other people in my area, in my immediate area, like my neighborhood, would actually be interested in something like this. I have friends who I've gone out with once or twice who have come down, even one visit from Ohio, and the other from Columbia, Maryland, and another one from Erie, Pennsylvania, who were visiting, gone out with me. But I dread going out and doing this alone.
Yeah. Well, we should definitely make it so that you don't have to. Even if that's, weird scheduling broken apart by the something. But arranging meetups, we have that tech. We can make that happen. Even if there's only, half a dozen people within range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If anyone is in, like, southern Prince George's County and interested in this, definitely give me a shout.
Okay. So this is the Burgess County in Maryland.
Prince George's
County.
County in Maryland.
Okay. Was this Prince George ever a king?
I'm not sure.
Okay. George it is. It's not the one named after the planet.
Not sure. No.
One of our planets was named George. Briefly.
By Jove. Jupiter.
No, it was actually what's now Uranus. Used to be named George.
Are you serious about this?
Interesting.
I want to see sources. I don't believe it.
I could be wrong. It might be Neptune that I'm talking about. Something about a king naming it for himself, and the astronomical community says, "No, we've set a standard that
it has to be a
Greek
Roman
deities
god.
or Roman. No, Greek.
Roman.
Which one? Roman deities.
Yeah.
Jupiter's Roman. All right.
Yeah.
I have to go look that all up.
Mars, yeah. I think they are all Roman.
The Roman version of Aries.
The Roman version of Aries. Got it. With the big fat red spot, little tiny rings.
Jupiter would be Zeus.
Just a ridiculous number of moons.
I'm thinking Saturn or.
Yeah, really. Yeah. By that definition, only the big or small rings tells you apart from Saturn or Jupiter. There's actually a lot more nuance than that, but we're not going to get into planetary science debates. That's not it.
Not yet. Not on this show.
Probably not. Although, if somebody wants to call in with an astronomical claim, that's fine. We can investigate those, even if we're completely ignorant. Not all of us are actually ignorant about astronomy, but that's not one of the requirements of SE, that you know very much about the topic that you're being asked about. It's one of the beauties. You can be ignorant in SE, and it still works out, because you're going to ask the same questions if you don't know.
You ask more sincere questions.
Yeah. You don't actually have to feign ignorance. You don't have to say, well, I don't know, so could you tell me? No, you can just say, what's the question? Even if you think you could predict the answer. And it's not important if you can predict the answer. Thoughts in a short statement. Okay. Tell you what I can do about Matthew's thoughts here, since this was a public thing and I was commenting on it, I think I would have permission to just share the document, which includes his Facebook post and my responses in it. So if you want to, you're welcome to go look at Matthew's thoughts, put into a very pretty Facebook post, and then in this case, because he asked me to comment, my comments interleaved in green. Nothing important.
This is good. Yep, thumbs up.
Thank you. You can share it. That's fine. Good. So let's see. Any callers? Anybody want to call in? We don't have to go a long show today. If there's no further calls or no further.
I'd like to talk, if we could, more about the possibility of doing this in public.
Okay. This is you doing this in public.
Yes.
Psst. We're in public. There's 20 people watching.
20? Oh, 20. Thank you to this 20 people.
That's more than would you watching you in the park. What are you going to have your partner, and 3 other people standing around in a crowd? Anyway, let's continue.
So, I'm not really sure what would be required, like technology wise. I think we mentioned this before, like right before the show during sound check.
Yep. Let's see. I have a thing that I would love to show. Let me see if I can pull it up on my computer and share it.
Nothing quite as fancy as a GoPro.
Oh, that's where I'm going to start. No, I can't actually pull up the thing because I've got that drive disconnected to. I have USB port conflicts.
It's something we can talk about. Maybe do a clip or a tutorial later.
Absolutely. I think this is the kind of thing where I want to invite anybody in the SE community to hit me or anybody up in the SE community that knows how to do a thing.
Yes.
And is willing to show it. And we'll make a tutorial video, and it'll be, simple and bare bones. Here's how we did it. Maybe we'll go fast through the parts that where nothing's happening. Like
keep it slow and steady for my sake.
What I mean is, like, if I'm waiting for an email to send and there's no talking, I just zip through that. So if there's nothing you needed to understand, I just go fast forward through that part, and then we get back to the part. So if I'm fast forwarding, you don't need any of the words that are in there, if there are any.
I noticed that with the tutorial with you and Hirsch.
Yeah,
about GIMP.
It's a good way to cut out a bunch of time if you take all the weightings out of it. Anyway, so yeah, I want to encourage creating tutorials for the use of the SE community on any topic that is related to making SE content, which is obviously a Venn diagram that goes over everything. But whatever we know how to do, we can make a tutorial on, and I'm happy to help produce those, whether I'm doing this tutorial or not. Okay. Yeah, sometimes the claim comes together when you talk it out. Yeah, we did do that just before.
I think there's something in like a later chapter in how to have impossible conversations called synthesis, where you're actually working together to clarify the claim.
Yes. Sasha said, should SE be anti-Christmas because it sets a bad precedent for children or others believing in truth? I can give you a steel man on the other side and say that our tradition of Santa Claus is a really excellent primer for getting people used to dropping Jesus later, or God, or whatever. If there's an atheist mode to this, I would think SE people that are Christians wouldn't be anti-Christmas.
Yeah, plus Christmas is so much fun.
Yeah, Christmas is great.
It's even fun when you don't believe Santa exists.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can remember when and why they stopped believing in Santa Claus. And because we all share that, I find that useful in Street Epistemology because, can you imagine a time when you learned something that wasn't true? How about Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy? Oh, those aren't real? Yes, those aren't real. Oh, good. Yeah, Matthew's putting in more. Thank you. Travis was threatening to call in with why there are certain why he is certain no deities exist. That's a spicy claim. Certain that no deities exist. How do you know? How can you be sure? I'm sure we can explore that a good bit. Let me make sure that the invitation is fresh enough that anybody can reach it without reaching up for the comments. Quality Question says, my mother, when I was growing up, convinced me we were aliens, and one day the mothership would come and get us and take us away. I trusted her completely. My mother would lie to me, would she? Then we get into the question of, is it a lie? It's like we had this conversation with Luke on another show. An indicator if you could tell somebody was lying. But if they genuinely believe the thing, that didn't count as lying.
With the intention to mislead you.
Right. They, yeah, indeed. Hey, Travis. Hello,
there.
Travis. Welcome.
Hey, you guys.
So let's see. Your claim is, I'll type it. D-I.
D-E.
D-E-I-T-I-E-S.
No deities exist.
No deities exist, indeed.
Okay. Do you want one of us? You want a dog pile? What do you
Dog pile is fine.
Dog pile. All right. I'll just start with a definitional question. What's a deity?
A deity is a character in a book that has is claimed to have powers that are not natural.
Okay, so something with non-natural powers, and when I hear book, could that be oral stories? Could that be any kind?
It could be oral stories, yeah, that get turned into books, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anything that is a story that could be passed on between people.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And has powers that are non-natural. Is that equivalent to supernatural?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So what does exist mean?
Not imaginary, not solely imaginary. So like exist in reality. It would be
something you would expect to see in reality.
Yeah, I mean, one problem with this claim is that I identify as an agnostic, Gnostic. So one reason I'm so certain about this claim is that I've never really heard a definition of a god or a deity that was falsifiable.
Okay.
So a lot of times they're defined as outside of the universe or predating, say, the Big Bang or something like that. And I don't know how to falsify that claim. So to me, like, just trying to define the deity gets us into the problem that it can exist by nature of the definition.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that most or all definitions of deities fall into the category of square circle or married bachelor.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Do you have examples of deities that don't? Maybe they are more modest deities.
Yeah, there are some, say, like, people that have claimed to be like prophets or have supernatural powers or are sons or daughters of these supernatural beings. So those claims can definitely be falsified, and I think they have. It's people kind of suspend their critical thinking when those kind of people use those powers, so to say, and don't try to explain them using natural means.
Okay.
So I think they can be explained.
Lie about the attribution of the thing and fool people about whether they have power. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So let's see. So like anthropology has discovered, or anthropologists have discovered about 4,200 known deities that people have claimed exist. So I think the only rational explanation for where these ideas have come from are people essentially creating them through their imagination. I don't think monkeys made them or dogs made them or aliens made them. I think the only plausible
have a notion of a god.
Let's not go there.
Okay.
But it's just an example. I don't think they've been discovered on magic tablets or like if you say that you had a dream or you thought this thought and then attributed it to a god, I still am basically claiming that you had that thought. And I think people can create ideas, imagine new worlds or fantasy worlds or write science fiction without like an influence of some kind of supernatural process. And I would hope that most theists could agree with that. I want to find some common ground there that, people can, together, you and I can create an idea of a thing that definitely doesn't exist. And, we could say we're going to do it and then do it. And we're not going to, claim a demon,
You make your unicorn rainbow colored and I'll make it the reverse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So some other problems I have with these concepts, sometimes they're called immaterial beings. And usually I say, well, aren't beings typically material to start with? So that an immaterial being is kind of like a square circle or a married bachelor.
Okay. So as soon as you make the claim of something having to, as soon as their claim requires a supernatural component, that's when you disqualify it into this is firmly imaginary pop. And we are the source of that imagination. If there's 4,200 gods and God is only one, that for at least 4,199 of them, they were imagined.
Right. Right. I would try to like get a theist, like a monotheist, to agree that people can create gods naturally without any supernatural direction. or misdirection. And like I think we could come across some pretty obvious examples, like the cargo cults. That like people didn't understand how planes or flight worked, and then they saw cargo being carried out of planes on the runways in World War II, and then they thought, oh, we can reproduce this process and have our ancestors visit us and bring us gifts if we create similar looking planes on mountains made out of wood that don't fly. I understand their mentality there, and I would hope that theists could say, wow, that's a clearly false religion that people made up because they didn't understand, and that's where the belief comes from. And I then try to understand the differences between like a made-up religion like cargo cults that we agree on, and a religion that they think is inspired by God, or comes from some external source that they can't quite define.
Okay. Any questions?
So going back to your definition of deity, are you strictly finding it to mythological deities?
Robot.
Yeah, I can't.
You reset your sound somehow. I can't get you. You might have to leave it right now.
All right, let me try that. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, Gigi, where would you take this?
So you already covered the difference with the distinction between the cargo cults are clearly made up and other religions. Would be your hope that they would draw a parallel between the two? Like, if the cargo cults are clearly made up, is it possible that mine could be made up too?
Right. Yeah, that's the idea. Now, I mean, typically, like, say in the Bible, that the Tower of Babel is used as the explanation for why other religions exist and other peoples.
Other religions and other languages.
Yeah, or that, like, Satan or demons are basically inspiring these people to create false religions. But I would say, like, okay, even if that's fine examples of new religions, or we could think of a new religion, and we could probably get little kids to believe it if we indoctrinated them strongly enough, and told them to have faith. And
get little kids to believe. Go ahead, give me a bullet list.
Yeah.
This is not a problem.
Yeah. We can make up some confusing Trinitarian ideas and unfalsifiable ideas and place this, just say everything's mysterious and anything you don't understand attribute it to God, or I sometimes use I name my fake God Larry or something, and I'll say, let's figure out the attributes that we add to our Larry God, and he loves us, and but he hates bad people, and that's why
does he hate
we can
in a kind of a I want to kill those Mises to pieces hate way, or he's just like
the bad people are turned guilty by Larry, and they turn themselves in, or they commit actions that get them in trouble, and then they pay the price or something.
It sounds like what bad people do in almost every story I've ever read. And then they pay the price, usually by the third act, unless they're going for
and if they don't, they will in some future afterlife that we can also make up. And like my problem with like heaven and hell is like, they're completely unfalsifiable. Are they on some planet in our solar system, or are they in a different galaxy? How do our souls transfer the information in our minds to those other places? Like I like asking these questions of, like where's the evidence that these places exist? are animals in them, did they also evolve through natural selection?
Yeah.
Is there mitochondria heaven? Or is the death of plants and animals happening to feed the people in the afterlife, so that, there's death of other animals? And, a few of these questions kind of expose the absurdity of some of these claims. And I think the trick is to think as little about these problems as possible, so that you can kind of
The trick is a thought terminating cliche. What?
yeah, exactly. Pretty
What?
much.
Usually I call those out as, wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute. But I can basically start right at immaterial being and say, all right off the bat, that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Or,
So you say no deities exist because there is no immaterial.
Yeah, like the word doesn't even make sense. Like, what is nothing real? How can a being that we say is composed of atoms and chemical reactions and molecules and all that be reduced to nothing and then still have the properties that the being has?
I'm going to do a little Pine Creek if you'll allow.
Oh, go ahead.
I would like to try to convince you to accept the possibility of deism.
Okay.
The first thing you have to potentially say is we could be in a simulation. Can you rule out that we're in a simulation?
Yeah. I don't really know how to falsify a simulation.
Right.
Like I could say, like, when Rosemary's mic went bad, we all heard it, but that's just part of the simulation. And,
right. The simulation is well in behind your eyes. This we both agree because we're both just fooled. So, in the case that we are in a simulation, I'm not postulating anything supernatural, but that means that there is something that is like a server rack.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something like an administrator who has the passwords to the root for that server rack.
And the password is just admin, right?
The password is admin, yeah. But we can't reach the keyboard, so it doesn't matter. And that's what I call a deist god.
Okay.
Could that be possible?
My issue with that is then, like, what's stopping that god from also being in a simulation? Because it must have all these characteristics and these desires and abilities that had to have come from something. So,
and
I mean,
pizza that's due in 2 millennium.
Yeah, I mean, I know theists like using the fine-tuning argument, and I'm always like, well, you're basically stating that something was complex enough to create the universe and life and everything and whatever constants, but
sure.
Doesn't
I don't know whether the admin has a family or is heading home for the night. I think that
right.
I think that the Industrial Revolution has happened since he got up to go get the pizza out of the microwave.
Along the same lines, I'd like to ask, what's the best argument you've heard for the existence of gods?
Best argument. The one issue is, like, I haven't even heard a falsifiable definition of a god. So already, like, they're starting off on the wrong foot. Like, if it's unfalsifiable, like, you could just be imagining it, and we can't even get past that step.
So it's something they're asserting is true, but can't be proven to be false. Like, there's no way you can test it to find out it's not true.
Our simulation is geocentric, and there's only RAM out to about 25 billion years light distance. a simulation. So not within our lifetimes, but it's going to crash when we reach the edge. That's just how long it's going to run out of RAM.
Yeah, I used to have those problems. I remember when I upgraded my computer from 256 to 512, and I had like a world of difference.
Oh yeah,
20 years ago or whatever it was.
yeah. I wonder how much RAM is required for a 96 billion light year. Anyway.
So I guess I have a question that would kind of fit in here. If somebody gave you a definition of being that you accepted as not requiring any material existence, but still involved existence, would your confidence that any deity exists go up even just slightly?
I mean, I know theists try to make this distinction that like mental concepts can be beings, like numbers and like equations and stuff like that. Still, I really find like the word being is completely tied to physical matter. So I'd be happy if they said some other word other than being. But then it's like, what does that mean even? You know, then we have another undefined word that we can't tie back into the real world. So
it's an entity object module unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
isn't that obvious?
You know, I'm also like, you know, I love the software hardware divide. You know, like our bodies are hardware, our minds are the software that run the hardware, and our thoughts are software, but they can all be reduced down to neurochemical reactions crossing the synaptic cleft and you know acetylcholine and all that stuff. I mean, I think of evolution as the way to explain consciousness and our thoughts and ideas, so that when people say, oh, you need intelligence to create intelligence, really what they're saying is they have an argument of incredulity. They can't understand how evolution could produce our brains, and then they're saying something complex must have created us, but then they're just pushing the cart back and they're saying
how could something
they
that
don't need to explain.
How could something that isn't intelligent become intelligent? I mean, I haven't done that except once when I was, you know, like born.
Yeah.
So what I guess just to drill in on being, so what is being and why is it require material?
Like, isn't it just like the definition of the word? Like it is material, and then, you know, like a rock is a being, a tree is a being, air is a being.
Any object is a being?
Yeah, because it's being in reality. And then if you like remove the object and there's nothing left of it, like, is it then an immaterial being? Like, one example I like using is like, you have an apple and then you have an immaterial apple.
Yeah.
But what properties does the immaterial apple have? Is it just our conceptual, you know, ideas of what an apple has, certain genetics, a certain fructose content and water, and it grows on trees? But those are all like inner mental constructs, or in the books we write, they're not.
Am I correct in
You
understanding?
can't measure an immaterial apple.
Am I correct in understanding how using being is a thing that exists and not necessarily something with consciousness or intelligence?
Yeah, that's not necessary. That's like kind of added on, or those are other arguments. And again, those tend to be arguments of incredulity, like they don't understand evolution.
I'm hearing something like object or thing.
Yeah, basically composed of atoms.
Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe
Are
even something
waves?
that's not composed of atoms. What if I had, I
A
suddenly
wave?
had some matter and antimatter come together and go poof, and now all they are is an expanding sphere of photons.
That's a good question.
Expanding sphere of
Yeah,
photons, is that a thing? I think so.
I think so.
And
Yeah.
are
Um,
waves and fields?
Yeah, disturbances
Yeah,
in waves and fields.
Yeah.
mhm. But like, is an immaterial wave like a real thing, or like when we add this immaterial idea on top of it, then it just kind of loses all meaning. So
Yeah.
Are waves
I
material?
understand that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
I think we're talking
yeah,
about
I
the
think they
definition
are.
of mass and energy and things that physicists.
Yeah. And I mean, I know theists kind of escape this problem by just like going before any mass or energy even existed and saying this thing had to exist. But then I get into this fine-tuning problem of like, what fine-tuned that thing to want to create this whole universe and whatnot. And did it naturally want to create it, therefore naturalism, or was it designed by like a super god that wanted this particular set of circumstances? But then you just have this infinite regression problem that was what they were trying to get by in the first place. So
yeah, infinite regression doesn't annoy me.
No. Well, it doesn't really annoy me either, but
I have no trouble at all with an infinite series. I can continue to subdivide fractions to get closer and closer to pi, and I'm convinced I could do it forever and never reach the end. So I have no trouble with an infinite series and approximating to what that would reach, things of that order. So turning it around to where I'm at this end of an infinite series, that doesn't bring my brain any harder.
I just realized how ironic my shirt is. It's a death metal band called Inanimate Existence. So
Nice.
I don't really know what that means either. But,
Inanimate existence. That's the rock
personal friends of mine. Yeah.
If you're not animated but you exist.
Yeah, that's a rock.
Yep.
That's a rock.
Yeah.
All you are is dust in the wind, waiting to be transformed into something biological so you may live. Because that's what all
future
they want vitality and be part of a carbon life form.
Or maybe a silicon life form.
Maybe. And they would be able to handle very hot things from the oven.
So do you guys think that we should be more strong in our claim of like Gnostic atheism or agnosticism due to my points, or should we kind of say like we don't know whether God does or doesn't exist because like the definitions of God are so bad or so kind of like we could always say, well, maybe there's something exists, but what I'm really talking about is like the stories that people share and believe in had to have been created by people. There's no other plausible explanation. So
I think most religions are made up by people, and the ghosts gods were invented by people, and people project their own characteristics onto their gods.
Yep, anthropomorphism, and right.
Anthropomorphism, yeah.
If I put on my Street Epistemology hat, this is just whichever hat, I'm going to say I don't need to concern myself with whether your theistic claim is true or not. Let's just look at why and how you come to conclusions and let go of the question of the claim. And then if I switch to my my atheist hat, I'm perfectly willing to firmly say that I have a whole bunch of definedly. There's a bunch of gods that define themselves right out of existence, and for them, I have very high confidence, no problem at all. And then again, I don't spend very much time arguing with this hat on anymore.
No.
No, I just don't spend very much time arguing about the theist-atheist question. I just do SE on it and go have a beer. Although I had to stop drinking.
That's cool.
And then for my part, I definitely don't believe a God exists, but I also don't say that I know that a God does not exist, because that would require me to falsify the existence of a God, which I can't do. And but the reason I don't believe a God exists is because I falsify the prime mover. But that's not the same as like, and that broke down everybody. But like the reason that I believed in a prime mover, so I should say I falsified the reason, which is that I couldn't imagine material coming into existence from non-material. But then I learned more about physics and found a way that you don't need a prime mover. And then
Event horizon will do.
So like those fields and waves, I don't think of them as material, but they give rise to material. So.
This is another atheist.
Oh,
Hi there.
Is a deity.
Okay.
or she is a deity.
His name is Butters. He's pretty dopey, and he's a polydactyl, so he has all these extra thumbs.
He's adorable.
Yes, thank you, Luke Fonts. I do try to do a good theist steelman when requested. Try to do a respectful, honorable. That would be the theist that you would like to have a good conversation with, as a one that says, oh, hey, you're no.
Yeah, so I would love to have more kind of discussions with theists that think they have good definitions of deities that could be falsified. I typically find they don't, and they haven't really thought much on the question because they've kind of put the cart before the horse, and they're already so far past the question, or like the incredulity is so high on the natural side that they just assert that the only possible explanation is the deity had to have done it all. But I just feel like it's not really like an honest argument at that point.
Imagine that we define a God that you wouldn't find unpossible. One that is not both married and a bachelor, one that not both circular and square or omnipotent. What sort of evidence would then, let's assume we find that definition of a God that you would think is possible, and then what would be the data that would get you to think that's likely?
Well, the issue with that is once you start adding in evidence and reproducible experiments and novel testable predictions.
Sure.
Now you're just talking about something that's natural. So it's no longer even like a supernatural thing. So the whole point of putting your God in a supernatural category is it can't be falsified. And
so if suddenly
I'm always willing to say
somebody shows up and they raise people from the dead. Poof. Thou shalt us get up us. And this is reproducible. And we don't understand the technology of the stick. And only this person wielding it makes it work. And they say...
Would I then believe that they're a god of some sort?
Yeah. Or would that disqualify as a god because you're not seeing anything supernatural necessarily?
Right. I mean, like, then, there would be a way to figure out how that stick is working.
Sure.
And, like, you could just look at the cells and say, oh, wow, the mitochondria are getting hit with this particle beam.
So as soon as you could reproduce it, you could start to study it specifically, and then it becomes part of the undiscovered natural.
Exactly. And you know, like it's just such a, you know, I think the point of making it supernatural is that you take it out of the realm of science so that, you know, it can always exist. It can explain anything you want it to. It can't be falsified. And really, it's like, I think our cognitive biases.
Oh, by the way, I can definitely falsify any god you portray. I can say that there's another god that is the only god that then actually demonstrates their existence to you. And that would falsify the other one that you tried. There is a falsifiable criteria, and if they would accept that, then there's something. There's at least something. So what if another god showed you that they were the only god?
They gave powers to the guy with the wand, and then
Sure, yeah.
And it just kind of
I can take it away.
Back and
the wand
back.
doesn't work. See, I give it back, and the wand works. Yeah. Yep. I'm going to give it to them on prime numbered minutes of the hour. Okay. Resurrect. Ah, shit. Oh, wait.
Okay. Now it's going to work.
Now it's going to work.
I see butters.
Hey, as long as it's the future testable prediction, it really doesn't matter what the testable prediction is. You could start to have some inductive confidence in the future of the future testable predictions. If the method works, you can start to gain some confidence, and that's the important part.
Right. And another thing that annoys me is like when agnostics say like, oh, I don't know how to disprove like a god, or, you know, like, well, the thing is, like, we don't know how to disprove it because we don't have a falsifiable definition of it. And, you know, I'm always willing to say that we're going to keep learning more about the natural world, and then we'll find things like quantum, you know, particles that created the universe or something, and then they will explain it better than the god. But, you know, at every point, once we discover it and can test it, it becomes natural. So it just seems like it's, you know, like a dead conversation. It's like, you know, like I think we can definitely be certain that, you know, what we're actually talking about, these stories and oral traditions and books, are created by people, and that's really what we're talking about. And we can be pretty Gnostic, atheist about those deities.
It's pretty easy to get people to agree that that's the case for everybody else's god, or most.
Yeah. And for some reason, we think special pleading is a good argument, and
sometimes it is.
You know, I really try not to do that. And you know, I think it's like when you adopt that position, you're kind of trading your honesty for like some belief that you deem beneficial.
Yeah. Special pleading is usually not very convincing unless somebody's willing to take a paradigm shift that it implies. And every once in a while, Luke Vaughn's his voice is also roboting for where I'm at to some, but mostly it's good. I've been able to understand you pretty well. So thank you, and I will take your opinion that I should be a more hardcore on the definitional side if I am having a theistic environment.
It can lead to some interesting ideas, and if you're strong on the, okay, what does immaterial being mean, define that, you know, let's go deeper. A lot of times you'll come across, you know, like you know, oh, it's a spirit, oh, it's a soul. It's just they recycle words that don't have, you know, agreed upon scientific meaning, and you know, it's just like a god of each gap and what we mean by that word.
So
I don't really know.
On the spot. Luke Vance wants to know what would convince you, and I'm going to make this harder for you because I'm going to ask the rest of the panel first. You're not allowed to copy.
Okay.
So, Gigi, what would convince you that God exists?
Oh gosh, it would take a miracle, literally, like either curing me or someone in my family of a horrible disease, or raising family members
cure.
from the dead. Yeah.
Okay, miracle cure. How about you, Rosemary?
Breakdown in the law of physics. So
Okay,
something
violation of the law of physics, miracle cure. I'm going to go with First Kings 18, direct intercessory prayer causing. I am working off for violation of physics a little bit, but in this case, I'm going for direct demonstration of a miracle through intercessory prayer would be a good one. Okay, now what else? How about you, Poke?
Like, yeah, like I would say the breaking the law of physics, but if I can't do that, like even if there is a break in the law of physics, I'd want to understand how that happens. So because there would never be like a reasonable, like we would never be able to really say it was definitely something supernatural. It would still be more plausible that it's natural and unexplained. So, like aliens that, mastered some extra technology would still be more likely than a supernatural being doing it.
Okay, well, maybe the Catholic God is really just alien technology, and the supernatural component of it is people misunderstanding, misattributing, and maybe fooling us so that we don't mess around with the nuclear science yet. The super nuclear science, subnuclear science, something. Infranuclear. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering why Luke Vance doesn't. I'm wondering why Luke Vance doesn't think a group of people created the Catholic God. They basically admitted it in the Bible, and then in like the
if they were inspired by God, if they were inspired by God, it would just look like.
Yeah, but like inspired by God means nothing. You could just say any imaginary thought you have is inspired by God. How do you falsify that? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, this was specifically in a very special way that ensures accuracy of intention, inspired by God, asterisk. Then it would look like that. From the outside, you couldn't tell except through the maybe the inner witness of the Holy Spirit or other sorts of personal revelations, or again, like some of the things that we're talking about that could be seen on the outside as relating to it. And I rather like the idea that, and I asked just before, and I asked for a specific thing, and I would like a series of meteors to fall down in this pattern, and here 6 dice, this pattern, and it goes boom.
Oh yeah, I like that idea. Like asking for a very specific future event to happen.
Yeah. A good prediction like that would lead me a long way to not necessarily saying supernatural, but saying, okay, I'm listening, and keep doing that. Oh, keep doing that. Okay, I have to trust, even if I don't know why. You just picked 6 winning horses in a row. There's something going on, Yeah. Yes, you might.
Yeah, I mean,
you might have a deal with the bookie, but whatever. There's something.
And even this, like, I've been to a Darren Brown show in New York City, and he's like a mentalist, and he basically puts the thoughts in your head before the show. He gets you to look at certain symbols, and then
he primes you for
he primes you for all these ideas. So even then, I'd be like more skeptical and think, oh, there's some way that I'm being tricked by someone that's psychology better than I do. And I'm always surprised that theists don't think that's like a possibility. And I know too that the easiest person to fool is myself, right? So, and then theists say, "Oh, I'm special. I can't fool myself." And I'm like, "All right, sure," but like at that point, you're trading your honesty for this beneficial belief that you think is going to help you.
Yeah, what's honesty ever done for you?
Yeah, right.
Honesty is uncomfortable. It is, just without a doubt. But I was.
Honesty is for people who can't remember what they said. Anyway, God.
But I think I want to go back to the cargo cult example you used earlier. Like, for those people, what purpose do you think those cults or those beliefs serve for them?
Well, to begin with, it helped them explain the unexplainable in terms of lift and airplanes and motors and electricity. You know, like I think we could all be pretty, misled by someone saying, "Oh, that's a supernatural thing," before we understand any of those concepts.
Sure.
If they had never been in a modern city and seen, pressed the light switch and seen a light go on, that there is magic. But
I'm betting
like, how does this go to there? It doesn't. Yeah. So, and then once you develop that original belief, it becomes groupthink. No one believes it. There's some interesting YouTube videos I was just watching. There's one that's 4.5 minutes long or so on the cargo cults, and you can see these people looking through the this fence at the cargo planes landing on the runway, and you can just see in their eyes that they believe that they're witnessing like magic, and then later they're up on the mountaintop and they're all in these groups and they have fires out at night and they're just praying to the heavens to please send us these gifts from the ancestors. And it's the analogy of faith is just so clear to me that we're able to delude ourselves in such a way that it seems so likely to be true, even when there's never been an example of some cargo on their mountaintop. It will never happen. Maybe a helicopter of relief supplies will come one day, and then they'll say, "Oh, look, see, it worked," and then they'll be even more certain, even though it's just UNICEF or something giving them supplies.
Yeah. We look at flight as just normal, and 200 years ago that was sorcery.
Yeah, and 600 years ago, the flying man flew over the Grand Canyon and ate it, and
I know
500 people witnessed him.
Magic is just like a science we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, and I really love the cargo cult example. I wish we had talked more about it as a community, and I think it helps theists understand, like, wow, there's something in humans that make them believe in things that are clearly false. And what if I'm doing the same thing? What if I'm having these?
Luke Von says, I noted 3 things that would convince you: miracle cure, breaking laws of physics, and prayer works. The first and the second seems the same. I agree. It's a miracle cure. And the only thing that I think I added was that sort of a post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy of I ask for the thing immediately before the thing, and then maybe repeatability and that kind of thing. And then, does it need to happen to you or be convinced the testimony from a reliable source enough? If I saw a bunch of well-documented demonstrations from independent people around the world, that would be as convincing as if it happened to me personally. How about you guys?
No,
it would have to be to you.
No, I don't even think to me, because I can be misled, and I know people are misled by con men all the time. So like I was watching T-Jump earlier, and the guy talked about this guy named John G. Lake. I looked up John G. Lake debunked multiple arguments about how this guy was a fraudulent con man, And
Yeah.
here you have a Christian saying, "Oh, look, this guy was able to do miracle cures and grow back legs and heal amputees." And he never just asked himself, "What if I could just confirm this? What if this is actually made up?" And I think that would always be the case for these things. I don't think we would expect made up characters in books to answer prayers. So like I don't even know like why that's a metric. Like there's no real test that would convince me because it's not even falsifiable in the first place.
Okay.
I think that's a really good point, because when I was practicing Reiki, I remember this one instance where I went in with bronchitis. Like I was still like being treated by a doctor at the time. It was a respiratory infection of some kind. And I was taking my antibiotic. But like after the fact, like sometime later, the practitioners were claiming things like, "Oh, we healed you of that. We fixed that." I'm like, "No, you didn't. I was still sick when I left." It took, a whole course of antibiotics to fix that.
Right, but sometimes that coincidence would be enough if you happen to be healed that day.
Sure.
And sometimes those convince you, and then you don't think of the alternate explanation that's probably natural, and you want to believe. And I find it really disturbing that a lot of religions kind of target people when they're grieving or in a kind of a vulnerable state where they're seeking meaning, they're seeking purpose, like a loved one dies. I've heard of stories of Jehovah's Witnesses sending letters in the mail. They'll read the obituary report and then send a letter to the widow to encourage them to come to their church, to be able to go to heaven with their loved ones when they also die. So like this is how religions work. This is like they exploit our mental flaws, and people just aren't really always aware that they have them, and then they become conned by these ideas.
They become convinced of something that isn't true because they need it to be true because of what it gives them.
Yeah, and it's hard to say like, oh, you shouldn't, you should just like discard that idea, because then you're basically saying like there's no meaning, you should just go die or something. And it's like I can't really answer the nihilistic argument that well either. I don't really think there's a point to life. I know I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be a housing colony for maggots one day, and it's a disturbing thought, but I have to be honest with myself, and sometimes it sucks to think about, and as a kid I would think about this at night before bed and basically cry and be like, it's hard to contemplate my own death. But over time I kind of got used to it, and now I'm just trying to make the most of my time here. I'm going back to school to do a master's, and I'm doing clinical nutrition science. I want to test ketogenic and carnivore diets to see if that's what we evolved in, and I think it could help significant numbers of people. And I think we basically taken a faith-based approach to a lot of nutrition topics in our life, and now it's like very similar to religion in a lot of ways. People don't want to question their beliefs, and they like their donuts and ice cream and soda, and it's just it's the new world we live in, and I want to prove all that wrong. But I know I can't really convince a lot of people unless I do clinical trials that demonstrate that.
Go for it. Yeah, and, that's the kind of thing that moves me a lot. It's good science behind it. That moves me way, way more than a whole big stack of anecdote. Welcome, Musafa.
Yeah, and I have a stack of books behind me, as you can see, and they're all nonfiction. All about diets and the whole bottom row here is Inuit books of explorers going up and living with the Inuit and basically living the carnivore diet way of life because they couldn't ship up, grains or flour or any civilized foods, and they had to just eat fish and caribou and seals and whales, and they thrived on it. So, like those historical anecdotes make a lot of sense to me. And another thing is a lot of them discuss the shamanism in the Inuit culture, and there would be people that claim that they could fly, and then the anthropologist goes in the tent and sits around them, and he opens his eyes and he's like, oh, the guy is still sitting here, but he just said to everyone that he just disappeared in the smoke into the air, and everyone else has their eyes closed and they believe it. And he does little tricks or little feints of sleight of hand, and people are like, oh wow, this is real magic, this is a real supernatural event. And and then it's kind of funny because then the anthropologists are talking about their own Christianity and saying, oh, ours is so much superior than theirs.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, it's the exact same.
Welcome, Mustafa. What do you bring? Can you hear us?
Hey, Musafa.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
we hear you.
How are you?
We are well.
Just joining in to see what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, we were just finishing up with Travis and about whether deities exist, and then going off into plans about doing research on diet to try to improve the world's dietary loveliness.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Travis. What is your definition of a deity?
Primarily, I'm an agnostic, so I don't know. I don't know of any definitions that theists have that make sense, but I typically just say it's a character in a story that can do things that aren't natural. It's an imaginary character, so someone created this idea and put a name on it, like Larry or something, and they gave this thing powers, but typically many deities are based off of other local myths and ideas that were common at the time, and they kind of evolve in their own way. And
It's interesting. So I just want to understand this very, just like from your point of view. Like, so you're starting off with the presupposition that the deity that you believe in, the definition itself is a made up definition. So it's kind of a circular argument, in my opinion, when you start off with something with the presupposition that it's fake, and then conclude that it's fake.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to explain where the idea came from, and I think the only plausible answer is that people imagined it. Like, do you believe in a deity?
Yeah.
Do you think the other 4,199 deities are imaginary?
I don't believe there are 4,100 or so deities. I believe there's only one deity. I believe
but there's
yeah. So I mean, like for
stories.
instance, yeah, there might be stories, but I believe those definitions would be. So for instance, if for instance for tomorrow, like let's say someone wakes up and starts worshiping their toothbrush in their bathroom, and they do that every morning and call that their deity. That I don't think, others or people who, let's say, believe in an Abrahamic God should be expected to defend their belief. We all agree that there are false beliefs out there. I don't disagree with the fact that there are false beliefs out there,
Right. So do you agree with me that most deities are imaginary and created by people?
No, I believe that.
Well, where else did they come from?
What the definition or?
Like, let's say the Inuit have a deity named Sedna. It's a goddess that lives under the sea and sends seals up to be hunted by the people. So, like, do you think that's a real existing thing out there, or do you think it's like a made-up story?
Well, where did you hear it?
Well, I read literature about the Inuit beliefs, and like, so I basically explain it as a made-up story, and I'm wondering if you would agree with me.
Yeah. So, if by definition of the story itself, like if the proponents of that belief system themselves believe that it's a made-up story, then who am I to give it a truth value?
Well, I mean, we're just trying to explain where the idea came from. So either Sedna is real and she inspired the people to believe in her, or people just created this imaginary concept to explain why they can hunt seals in the wintertime.
Okay. Yeah, but
So,
by definition itself is a mythology, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you? Yeah.
I don't see where the need for me to ask, like, why do I have, like, I agree it's a mythology. So, for instance,
Okay.
I believe in the monotheistic Abrahamic God that has no shape or form. So anything, let's say, that looks like a human being with a beard, we believe it's idolatry or false belief.
Okay, so no shape or form. What does that mean?
So God is infinite in its existence.
What does
he
that
does
mean?
not occupy space.
Okay, so it doesn't exist in reality?
It doesn't exist in our physical world. It doesn't exist in the sense that everything else exists, like contingent things.
Okay, that's what I believe as an atheist. So
You believe that?
yeah, like God doesn't exist in our reality. That's what you just said, right?
God does not exist as a physical being in our reality, yes. But God is the one who created everything. He has a knowledge and power over everything. So he does exist.
What do you mean by knowledge?
Knowledge is, information. Information
okay,
about.
Is it processed in a place like a brain?
Brain is an organ in the human body. So, like I said,
yeah,
God
and
is
right, and when we think and we have knowledge, we're basically using ATP to power mitochondria to transfer electrons within a network. So that's like what knowledge means to me. So, like, is that what knowledge means to you?
Yeah, knowledge is information. It's just what true facts is what knowledge is, like facts that exist regardless of human subjectivity.
Right, but in order to think about knowledge, like, you need a place to do the thinking, and we have brains that do the thinking. We're burning energy and creating this network of electrons. Like, is that what God has, or does he have knowledge without a brain?
He has knowledge without a physical.
See, to me, that's just like a
could I have knowledge
non-answer.
that wasn't in a brain?
What's that?
Could I have knowledge that wasn't in a brain? Like,
it's on a memory card. For, you mean a human being?
Right. Could I consider that what's on my memory card that I haven't read yet be knowledge that I possess? I'm just trying to wonder
knowledge,
if there's reason to
knowledge
believe that knowledge has to be connected to a brain, or if it could be as yet disconnected from a brain.
So I don't consider
like-
knowledge to be something. So brain is just processing that information that's out there, external to us, right? So it's the knowledge. Even if all 8 billion people were to wiped out completely, the knowledge of where the moon is or how far it is from the Earth is still there. It's still a finite number or a number of miles.
It could be rediscovered, right? Like reality existed before humans existed, right?
Yeah, if we
Yeah,
forgot
but it
how
has
far the
nothing to
sun
do with
was
the
away,
brain
we'd
then.
learn it again.
Right, but what you're saying, Mustafa, is that like God has this property of knowledge without a brain, and to me that doesn't make any sense. So like,
I just gave you an example of all 8 billion people being completely wiped out, and that finite number of miles between the moon and the Earth would still
well,
be.
that would just
still
be
exist.
like a
Hold on.
fact of reality, but it wouldn't be
Right, and
knowledge.
I think Mustafa is saying that if it's a fact in reality, that's within the category of the knowledge of God.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, how does he process that knowledge without a brain, like a local
Well, I
center to
don't
do
know
the
the
work?
intricacies of how he processes. I mean, it's I think it's an irrelevant question. Like I don't really. It doesn't matter how he processes it because I'm not God. I don't know what's in the mind of God. That's for me. I am trying to decipher my reality and whatever the truths I can attain, and I am a type of person that is truly willing to accept whatever the truth is, regardless of where I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So
would you accept
it is
the idea that God doesn't have knowledge because he doesn't have a brain?
no, I just we just went over this. Like, brain has nothing to do with it. Like, brain is a human organ. You can talk.
Right.
Maybe you can use the word mind. Yeah, maybe God has.
Minds are synonymous with brains to me, so
Okay.
I think it's just kind
And
of.
with
These
that,
are semantics. I think
we are 17 minutes past. Thank you for joining us. Mustafa, you don't have to leave. I'm just going to end the broadcast. If all of us waves, it'll trigger the AI, and